Ready to hit the pause button on your parenting fails? Ready to feel better about your parenting? Welcome to Parenting Pause, the podcast, where all of you is welcome. I'm Leslie Potter, the founder of the Pure Joy Way, a mother, a parent coach, and a fellow traveler on this journey to wake up in our parenting. And I believe together we can make this a better world for ourselves and our kiddos. I don't know about you, but I have a hard time letting go of control, right? I didn't really know I was such a controlling person until I became a parent, and you may not either. But I started to recognize that I really like having control. And of course, I have a daughter that really likes having control. So you can imagine when the two of us get together, there can often be what they call a control battle. And when I get really dogmatic or I get in my strong, like I'm the big person and I get to control you and you need to back down, it only gets worse. I mean, well, maybe not even worse. What it does is it triggers in her coming up. So I guess there's a benefit there. She really gets to find her strength and her chutzpah as she fights her way back to trying to get control. And yet, what I've learned in myself is that when I'm in that controlling mode is because I really think that it's all up to me, that I have got to be in control of my external or I won't be okay. So when I get there, I'm really in this one-sided position that it's all up to me. Now, I can track that, and you may be able to track that if you have that. I can track it back to my early childhood, being an adult child of an alcoholic, and always feeling that I needed to be in control of the external. And one of the ways I did that was to become a pleaser or a placater, and I was hyper vigilant. I was always watching the external to see if I could control it because I was terrified it was going to go off the rails, and often it did go off the rails. And then I just really didn't know what to do because it turned back in and I started to think that it was my fault. And if I had been more responsible and more together, I could have kept it from going off the rails. So, of course, this traveled into my parenting. And I started thinking that when things didn't go the way I thought they should go, I started taking this over responsibility like, oh, it's my fault and I should be able to control this little being down here, right? She's so little, I should be able to control her actions. And when I wasn't, it was terrifying. I just want to tell you, it was absolutely terrifying. And so, of course, all these strategies came up where I would do just almost anything to get control. Now, it never felt good afterwards, and it might not for you. So I want you to look into that this week. I could get or take control, I will say, when she was little. But the methods that I had to use to take that control was to manipulate her or to shame her or to punish her or consequence her. I had to use all these techniques, and crazily enough, my mind thought that was a good thing. That's what I would tell myself. You know, I had read all the books that said, that's how you get your children to control them. Really, they didn't really say it that way, but that's what I realized it was doing. And that always meant that I got my way and she didn't get her way. Well, that didn't go over really well in our household. My daughter is really strong. She came from a history of, some trauma. She was adopted. So control for her was the number one strategy that she had, especially when she didn't trust that the environment was truly a loving environment that was open and available and inviting for her to be all of who she is. So as long as I was controlling, I couldn't understand her need for control. I saw it as a threat to me. And then when I began to safe seat, I really began to see my need for control because I felt so threatened by my 4-year-old. I felt threatened by her need for control. So if you don't know the Safe Seat, download it. You can go to the website, purejoyparenting.com, and there's a 5-day, I walk you through little videos on how to do the Safe Seat. It was a lifesaver for me. And it began to turn me back toward myself, and I began to commit to a practice of recognizing when I wanted to be in control or I was getting ready to make a move toward control, I would move to my safe seat where I could actually begin to let go of that behavior, of that strategy. And I could really meet the innocence of my being and the desire in my being to have the control because I was terrified that I wasn't going to be cared for. I wasn't going to be taken care of. So when I began to meet that innocence, you can see my voice starts to soften. I started to soften. And then I was able to see my daughter's need for control in a very, very different light. I wasn't so threatened by it. I began to meet it with more and more kindness because I had met my own. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Pure Joy message out. Come on over to the Pure Joy Parenting Practice Facebook page or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Pure Joy website. And while there, check out the offerings page to go deeper in the Pure Joy work.